Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. I'm here with Justin LaBar and Raj Giri. It's Monday night, and the draft hasn't set yet, so all sorts of shenanigans are happening on Monday Night Raw, and we're going to talk all about it here. But guys, before we get into all the details, tell me about you. How was your weekend? How are you guys doing? Raj, I haven't heard from you yet. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was. We were up in the mountains. I was on the MLW thing on Thursday, so then got away for the weekend and relaxed, and now we're back. So.
No, I was gonna say no rest, but you're getting to go to the mountains. You're getting to do all this fun stuff. Sounds like a good time. Justin, I know you're very busy as well as the football season continues to rock and roll.
Yeah, very busy with the fall football season and very busy with wrestling. This Saturday, IWC Wrestling that I work with, the International Wrestling Cartel. It's our I think our 20th Super Indie tournament. I retweeted a picture earlier from the account. You know, CM Punk and Colt Cabana and Chris Hero, Adam Cole just a few years ago. I mean, just anybody who's anybody you can think of has been involved in this tournament. And I'm once again leading another man into this tournament this Saturday here in Pittsburgh. So Super Indie, come out and see it if you can.
Very cool to hear about that. And if we're talking about stuff, I got Defy Wrestling here in Los Angeles is coming by on Thursday. So we're all plugging our own stuff here. But
gotta get the stuff in.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some other wrestling companies that have been doing some pretty solid numbers as of late, or interesting numbers, I should say. Friday live WWE SmackDown season premiere drew an average of 2.147 million viewers on Fox, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. The number is down 4.66% from last week, where they did night one of the draft, and the demo was a 0.52 as opposed to Rampage across the street there. They had 502 viewers on TNT, according to Showbuzz Daily. That's down almost 20% from last week's Rampage, and drew a 0.17 in the key demo, which was down 32%. It seems like SmackDown's rocking and rolling. Rampage, though, seems to still be dipping further and further down the rankings here. Raj, you're my go-to ratings guru. Any kind of feedback on this number?
I mean, they were up against a baseball game, so that would bring it down a little, but not as much as it was down. So I think what you're kind of seeing is Rampage kind of settling. They had a lot of big first episodes, with CM Punk's first match. You had Danielson wrestling. But it has been a steady decline especially since that Punk episode. And I mean, this was a big drop. I mean, we got the overnight numbers over the weekend, which we posted on the site, but it was a really big drop. Down 32% in the 1849 demo. A 0.17. They were number 15 in the demo. Just not that long ago they were number 1. So not a good number. And you had CM Punk wrestling. So, and then next week, or this coming Friday, we got Rampage up against, at least for half of it, it's up against SmackDown on FS1. So Tony Khan, he made an interesting tweet at first about it, basically saying we welcome the competition. We're happy to beat you guys. And I think after he saw this number, he kind of walked it back a little bit.
It's a half hour, right? This Friday that they're going to be.
Yeah, so SmackDown's going to be 2.5 hours on FS1, and then Rampage is a regular episode. There's no Dynamite this Wednesday, so if they do something big and decide to change their lineup, and I mean they got a big match with the Inner Circle versus American Top Team, and then CM Punk versus Matt Sydal. I mean, I think we saw this past week, just CM Punk wrestling is not really that much of a ratings mover. I mean, they could always change the match to something bigger, but they don't have Dynamite to plug that, so they would have to do that online.
Is this Rampage live?
Yeah, it is. Yes. So
that'll help a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I've always said I'm not a huge ratings guy. And I always see these things like numbers up and down 3%, 4%, and I always think, that's not a big deal. But Man, this number 20% is a huge drop off. That has to be alerting some people. That's a big number. It's hard to not pretend that can't be an issue. And yeah, Raj, to your point, knowing they're going to go head to head, I was really excited about this, but it feels like Rampage is kind of set up to get a knockout blow here in the ratings in that first half hour next week.
Yeah, I mean, you got baseball that's going to be on this Friday, so obviously SmackDown's going to be way down. It's on FS1. FS1 is a weak channel. So the last time they were on FS1, they did a little over 1 million viewers and a 0.30 in that demo. Again, FS1, you can't compare it to a USA or a TNT. It's way down there. But it should, it should beat Rampage handily, you would think. Mm-hmm. But you never know. You never know if they make some changes for Rampage this Friday. But I do think it should be a SmackDown victory this week.
Yeah, I would think so. Because even without, as you mentioned, Dynamite, even if they have something really big planned, no one will really know about it until it's too late.
Right.
Unless Tony Khan goes on Busted Open like he does every week, and he drops some big got it tune in Friday. See who's showing up.
Hear that, Tony Khan? You got to go on Busted Open and tell Justin specifically that's when Bray Wyatt's debuting on Rampage. That's how you do it, folks. I don't know. So before we get into everything, I wanted to just thank everyone who is in the chat joining us as always. Haywood, Boza, Peter, Ricky, Tim, everyone who is currently on my screen invisible, but everyone else in the chat as well. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. And thank you to everyone who listens to us on the podcast after we record, whether it be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Always appreciate you guys. If you have anything you want to put in there, have us talk about, just hit us with one of those super chats and we'll make sure to get to you. But in the meantime, we have a episode of Raw, and we start off with Drew McIntyre and Big E kind of talking some smack to each other before the Usos come out, and we get a tag team match for later in the night. I thought this was a fun mixing of what Raw used to be versus what Raw is going to be, and then the Usos, I feel, are one of the most underappreciated parts of WWE lately. Justin, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the way this show opened up?
I was okay with the opener. I appreciated actually what Drew was saying to Big E about acknowledging how he hasn't had his moment in front of the fans, because he was champion, during the uncertain times. They don't say the word pandemic. So I kind of appreciated what was going on there. And then, the Usos coming out. Look, I'll always take all four of these guys in the ring. They're all super entertaining, super athletic. It set the tone for what I figured this would be. This is kind of it's not the go home show to Crown Jewel. It's one of these purgatory episodes before the draft takes effect. The draft results takes effect. So it's just kind of okay, what can we what's something simple and short-lived that we can do. So that's all it was to me. I didn't the whole night tonight was kind of that tone for me.
Was it and Raj, we'll go to you. I don't know if maybe this is just my perception, but this episode, all commentary about what we think of Raw aside, this one just felt weird. It felt like, I don't know if it was the timing or the way it was put together, but it felt like commercials were more often. It felt like matches were happening faster. It felt off to me. Was that just me, or did you kind of get a feeling of that?
Well, there were only 4,000 tickets sold at that arena, and it holds about 15,000. It's the new arena in San Francisco. So it was a quiet crowd, and I think that kind of contributed to that quiet atmosphere. It just never felt lively. It just it just felt kind of dead. So I think that's part of it. And I just think, again, Big E and Drew versus the Usos, I almost feel like you needed some sort of stakes for that match. Just as a main event, it just wasn't a marquee enough match to make you want to commit to 3 hours, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe put the titles on the line or something. Especially if they weren't going to win anyways. But, watching this, it felt like I was watching main event in a lot of ways. Because of the crowd and because it was so dark, and I don't know, this episode felt off to me. But It was nice to see, Drew do an opening, and as he said, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw." It's cool to hear him say that because I know we're not going to keep him and on Raw. And speaking of Keeps is our sponsor this week, you guys. I know, you don't keep a head of hair like this without something helping you out. That's why I go with Keeps. Something I like about Keeps is it's so simple. You can just go online, you can order it, and you get the packaging. It's not obvious, so it's just very discreet is the word I'm looking for. But 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. So if you're not 35 years old and you're in the chat right now and you're looking at all the other fellas' names in the chat scrolling by, 2 out of 3 of you are going to have to deal with this. So 2 out of 3 of you should be looking into Keeps right now. Keeps offers simple, stress-free as a way to keep your hair. Their convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications are delivered straight to your door every 3 months, so you don't have to leave your home. That's my favorite part. The low-cost treatments are just $10 per month, and Keeps offers generic versions, discreet packaging, and proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is key. Treatment can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/INC to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com/INC to get your first month free. keeps.com/INC. First treatment free. How do you argue that?
I've been using it for a long time now. I've been using it probably like 6 years. And, again, you don't want to wait, until it's too late. You want to start, if you notice you're starting to lose your hair, act quickly, because the sooner you start, the less of an effect it'll have.
Yeah, and I mean, Raj, your hair is just about as thick as it can be.
I don't know, man.
I'm surprised that hat doesn't stand a chance.
It's about to explode.
So yeah, definitely, I recommend everyone at least check them out. Like I said, it says 2 out of 3 people, 2 out of 3 men, by the time they're 35. So again, if you're in this chat, you probably are going to have to take a look at it anyways. Do yourself a favor, get the first month free. Go to keeps.com/INC. Let's continue on with this show already. Xavier Woods versus Ricochet, King of the Ring. I thought this, for me, was probably the match of the night. I love this. I thought this was King of the Ring is such a great way to have 2 guys that maybe don't have a lot of singles match steam, have a match that matters. And I don't know about you guys, and Raj, will start with you. I felt like Xavier Woods, he was fighting like this was his lifelong dream.
Yeah, which almost makes me think he won't win it because of that. Because I think because he has been so public about wanting to win King of the Ring, I could see WWE just for that reason not having him win it. They love to do stuff like that. So, yeah, it's going to, I was really hoping they were going to do Xavier versus Kofi. It's just something interesting, something different. Obviously, they did not go in that route. But that would have been something interesting. And I feel like there just hasn't been much interesting on, at least on this show.
Yeah, I would have bet the farm they were going to have Kofi win it and then do Edge Christian Part 2, but with the New Day instead, where Xavier's jealous and then eventually they break apart. But
yeah, there was a lot of ways you could have taken that, and I just felt like it would have just even last week when the Usos, when they were just drafted to SmackDown, it would have been way more interesting if they were drafted to Raw, and then you do some sort of storyline to eventually get them back on SmackDown. But at least then you got Roman pissed and the whole thing with Paul Heyman. But by just saying they're drafted to SmackDown, I don't know. You just miss a lot of good story you could tell there.
Yeah,
I will say for the men's King of the Ring, I do feel like it at least feels a little bit more important than many of the previous attempts in the last decade. And maybe it's simple stuff, updated graphics. I like the more updated modern staging they had with the 2 thrones at the entrance ramp. I don't know, and it does feel like there's a little bit more oomph behind this one. Whether or not it's going to mean absolutely anything to whoever gets crowned, to be determined. But I do feel like this, it does have a little bit of a fresh feel to it. Not a fresh, a revitalized feel to it, which is nice.
I think the timing's good too, with it taking place in the sort of dead period between the draft and when it takes effect. I think the timing's good. We go on from there. Matt Riddle challenged Omos, and Orton tells him, "There's no plan. What are you doing, you bozo?" Another RK Bro segment. I liked it. It's fun. Not sure if there's any big takeaways from it, but do you guys have any commentary on just this backstage moment before we get to Mansoor and the Hurt Business and Ali?
The backstage is okay. These backstage with these two are just stupid, goofy, but they tend to, I at least chuckle. This was okay. What they tried to execute live in the ring later was just garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I thought as far as their segments go, I couldn't tell if it's just starting to get old or if it was just this week. It was an off week, but I thought, I just thought it just felt like we need to go somewhere with this because it's starting to feel a little like they're dragging it out with Riddle and Randy Orton.
Yeah. The headphones feel like product placement, but they're not like selling the product. I don't know what brand those headphones are, but it feels like they go out of their way to show us the headphones every week. Mansoor and Ali, they have a match against the Hurt Business. Fast-paced, I thought. This was cool to see the Hurt Business get a much-needed win to build up momentum. And Ali and Mansoor seemed to be done after the match. Who saw that coming? But the Hurt Business gets a win. They're a tag team. That's good, right?
Yeah, they are, but like they never were seen with Bobby tonight. Bobby's is seen later in the night by himself. So it's like they are the Hurt Business, but they aren't. This Mansoor Ali stuff actually low key kind of one of the better, like consistently like attended to stories by WWE right now. Obviously it's higher on the priority list. Obviously I think, leading towards, the payoff match of these two, probably in Saudi, in a week and a half. So that's why it's remaining up there with consistency, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I guess but especially Ali, very talented guy. So, I mean, he needs to get a career victory after what's just been the last year and a half of, failed retribution and just overall just, pretty much flopping with what I give it to him.
But sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's just a fascinating Marvel what if storyline if Ali never got hurt before that title push he was gonna get. I think going into Elimination Chamber years ago, the one that Kofi got. If that never happened, I feel like there's a very different WWE universe today.
I don't think Ali would have been the world title match at WrestleMania, even if he didn't get injured. I think it did look like at that time they were going with Kevin Owens. Obviously, plans changed to Kofi. But yeah, if he didn't get injured, the Kofi thing probably wouldn't have happened. But I don't think Ali would have been that title match.
Nah.
But you mentioned this match probably happening in Saudi Arabia, so that means Mansoor's got to win it. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's still undefeated over there, right?
Yeah. He beat Cesaro last time. He won the greatest Royal Rumble. So he's got a pretty good track record over there.
Has he been on all of them too?
I don't think the first one, right? Was the first one the greatest Royal Rumble?
I don't think so. I think that was the second one.
The greatest Royal Rumble was...
I think it was the first one, right?
It was April of 2018.
Yeah. So that was
I was watching it from a delivery room when my son was being born. I think that was the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched one of them while I was in Costa Rica, which the Undertaker and Goldberg won.
That's worth stepping away from the beach for. Wrestling Enthusiast says, has there been a decline in sales or attendance at WWE events hosted in arenas that do vaccine checks? Tonight's Raw was a vaccine-required arena.
I mean, that has to have an effect. WWE, they were in Madison Square Garden, a few weeks ago, and they didn't sell out. But Madison Square Garden, they had the vaccine requirement. And I got to think if they didn't have it, it would have sold out. Even though they didn't sell out, they did their biggest SmackDown gate ever at that show. So,
wow.
So yeah, they're raising the ticket prices. So even if they don't sell as many tickets, they're still making a lot of money on these shows.
Anytime you make something more difficult, you're going to hurt sales. And I don't mean to imply that if you have to provide any type of extra documentation for something, you're adding an extra step, it's going to affect sales. Even if it's on the internet and I have to plug in additional piece of information, it's going to make me go, maybe I don't need to buy this. You know,
Right.
That's why Amazon's great, because you just click a button and it does it for you. But
well, and with the vaccine, like when they did the requirements at MSG, was it only for people who were 16 and older, people that are eligible for the vaccine, or
yeah, I believe
12
so.
and older, or whatever the number is that the age?
Yeah, 12 and over, and I thought that 12 and under had to show a proof of a COVID test, like a negative COVID test. I could be wrong on that.
Well, if that's the case, that's a huge thing right there. You gotta make a point to take your child who's under 12 years old and go get them a COVID test. I mean, that's not,
right. Yeah. It's not the most convenient thing, especially with the family with kids under 12, because the vaccine's not available for them yet.
They got to really show up and want to chant New Day Rocks.
And they should want to. Shayna Baszler versus Dana Brooke in the Queen's Crown tournament. Baszler steamrolled the competition and got a quick win over Dana Brooke. I like that she won with the knee instead of a usual finisher. I like that she kind of wins with whatever she has available to her. This is the Shayna Baszler I loved on NXT. I was glad to see this result in the Queen's Crown tournament. I hope she wins it all. Justin, is Shayna Baszler the favorite?
I think she is. You look at the brackets. I mean, she's up next against, not to jump ahead too much, she's up next against Doudrop. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think whoever's winning is probably coming from that right side of the bracket. It's either Shayna, who they've seemed to get back behind after her floundering for a little bit on the main roster, or if they pull a total swerve, bro, then it will be Doudrop, who's got a little bit of momentum. But I mean, it's going to be them up against, we have Carmella and I think Zelina on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been no consistency with Zelina since since she's returned. She's been as good as not being there for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Shane is probably the favorite here.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Raj.
Oh, I was going to agree. Yeah, I agree. I think Shayna, she's got a little bit of momentum. They're giving her something. I don't think you have her lose to Doudrop or Zelina Vega or Carmella right now. I think that would just really bring her down.
Especially with the way that Doudrop even won in advance. It was like a very a very cheap way to win for a babyface.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the finals are Doudrop versus Baszler.
Right.
That feels like the real finals, because I can't imagine. Yeah, Justin, to your point, Zelina and Carmella, neither of them feel like they're on a roll, but both Doudrop and Baszler are. So
yeah,
but you never know.
Real quick, Issa, NYC Demon Diva, pointing out that she was at the live event in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago, or last week, and in Puerto Rico they did not allow kids at all, which she said, which was stupid.
Wow.
But it still sold well.
Yeah, well, if it works.
This Raw gets bad luck with Monday Night Football. This game looked like it was going to be it was very one-sided at halftime. It just ended. The Ravens ended up winning, coming from behind, went into overtime. So that should affect the Raw rating tomorrow.
Yeah, the ratings for Raw are very interesting, especially as Dynamite creeps up. Charlotte Flair cuts a quick promo saying she's going to be the most important person in her tag team match. And then we also get Matt Riddle finally gets his match with Omos. Riddle thinks that Orton's going to save him, but he doesn't. Omos just beats the tar out of poor Matt Riddle, even kicks him in the face. I thought it was fun how this whole match unfolded. Justin disagrees with me based on what he said earlier. But Raj, I want you to be the tiebreaker. Was this fun or was this bad?
I liked it. I like seeing Omos doing his thing, and I thought, he's still limited. He's still green. So for what he can do, I thought this was a good way to hide his weaknesses, show his strengths. I thought the kick looked good. It did drag on a little bit, but some of this, the scripting of these promos and what they're saying just sucks. But outside of that, I thought Omos looked good. He changed his outfit a little bit. He looks even more imposing than he did before. I thought he doesn't have the big winter coat, and so I thought he looked good.
Yeah, and let me be clear. I'm always a sucker for the next big guy project. I was on the Braun Strowman train. I was on the Braun Express way before it was a thing. Yeah. Like I like the big guys, and I especially like the big guys that we know are athletic, that can do things that, somebody who's 7 foot can't. We haven't seen as much of it from Omos, but he's not a great Khali. He is not just a fee-fi-fo-fum. I have shackles on my legs of movement. He can move around, and I think there's going to be a bright future for him if they continue the protection with him that they have. My gripe is not so much the match. It's actually kind of a clever way to okay, let's let Omos look strong. We have to protect him. We're not ready to beat him, of course. But it was the nonsense before. So the whole gimmick of Riddle thinks it's another plan by it is dragged. It was so I was watching people in the audience, and it was just such a drag. And mind you, Riddle and Orton are one of the most over acts that's on Monday night. They are one of the fan favorites, so that's not a good sign when I'm watching people that literally look like they were yawning or rolling their eyes. You're okay, let's just get to it. Let's get Randy out here. And then the way they executed the way they shot it. So they finally, Omos wins, and then Randy's music hits, and but AJ's not going to be fooled. He knows to turn around. Well, then he tells Omos, okay, you go cover this area where a wrestler normally runs in, from the commentary desk angle. Omos goes out to the commentary desk desk position, and then we cut to a close-up, and Orton still pops up. And it's well, where the hell did he come from? Did he come from under the ring? Did he come through the ring like Undertaker? It just, the whole thing, the way they shot it, the way they executed it, the way it dragged, it just didn't vibe. And I was just this is a big miss for what is supposed to be one of your top babyface acts in Riddle and Orton.
I thought what they could have done to really add some real tension to it, because it's been kind of a goofy rivalry. I thought they could have add some real seriousness to it with when AJ said, wait, no, don't end the match. We're legally allowed to do whatever we want right now. And I think they could have really bruised up Riddle and made Randy Orton come out or do something a little more serious than just one more move and then pinning him. I thought they had an opportunity there that I thought they kind of missed, but I kind of like Randy Orton coming out of nowhere in the RKO. But
I agree with you, Jack.
The out of nowhere would be fine if they didn't already go, aha, we know we need to cover the opposite side, not the entranceway. It's well, then where the hell did he come from? If you had both sides covered, where did he come from?
I agree with you, Jack. I think they could have done something really dastardly, gotten a ton of heat, and there's just so much goofy comedy on these shows. Do some stuff that's serious, that really gets you invested in this feud. And I think they just opted for comedy, pretty much.
Yeah. And then we have in the chat, Bear Hudson says, with rumors of Paige returning to wrestle, what is more exciting to watch? Paige versus Becky or Becky versus Lita? Which could headline WrestleMania? I'll let you guys take that. Justin, which one do you think is the bigger match?
I don't know if either's headlining a WrestleMania. I mean, Becky Lita's cool because anything with the Attitude Era of nostalgia has a, but I don't know. Paige is Paige. She had a Hollywood movie made about her that The Rock EP'd. So, yeah. I guess Becky Lita again. I'm gonna go with nostalgia.
Yeah, I'd actually go with Paige and Becky, just because Becky's such a huge star, and I think Lita. I don't think she'd do a singles match like that now. Even at Evolution, she did a tag match. So, but yeah, I don't think either of those could headline a WrestleMania.
But if Paige wrestles again, I don't know if it's with WWE.
Yeah, and there is that.
Yeah. And then we also have in the chat, Brett Murphy says, Raw was okay, but enough of that. This Friday is my 30th birthday. Can I get an early shout out? Happy birthday, Brett Murphy.
Happy birthday, Brett. You're just a couple days before me.
Dirty
Brett,
30.
Happy birthday. How's your hair? Check out keeps.com.
Yes. Statistically, you got about 5 more years before there's a problem. Count down the days. And then Peter says, what do you guys think of AJ Lee's involvement with WOW? Do you think there are too many companies on national TV now? I think the more the better, personally.
Yeah, as far as, getting to that top level, that's going to be tough for all these companies to do. But as far as being in that secondary pool, yeah, the more the merrier. I can't watch it all. It's too much for me. But yeah, it's, WoW, they've come back 27 times so far.
Yeah.
And I think it's really smart to get AJ Lee involved. It got them a lot of headlines. It got them a lot of buzz. Now, the only problem right now is that all the top women are pretty much tied, signed with WWE or AEW. So it's going to be, outside of Tessa Blanchard, it's going to be a lot of people that are very green. So that is one thing that's going to be tough for him. But and also Impact Wrestling has been signing a lot of former WWE stars. So I think it's going to be tough for them to get going. But as we've seen with Impact, you can last if you get a TV deal, and there's a lot of different streaming options and stuff now.
Yeah, it's always good for the business to have more options for the talent. It's crazy. Again, there are fewer people watching pro wrestling. This is not the Attitude Era. There are fewer people. It's just the fact that the fans spend more. Each individual fan is so much more invested. They wrestling manages to pull every dollar, every cent out of them. So yeah, and to what Raj was saying, this resurgence of WoW would have been a lot better if it could have happened before AEW, before NWA. The pool is thinning of women's talent, especially women's talent that have TV experience. There are more women, I think, than ever getting into pro wrestling because of the surge in women's wrestling in the last 6-7 years and moving away from divas and just the sex appeal. But even still, while there is more interest, that doesn't necessarily mean there's more quality talent. And again, talent that have TV experience, and that has to be can be taught via reps. And reps on TV means that you're trying things and people are seeing it. If it's taped, maybe you can try to cover some things up. But it is a tough go. But I agree. AJ Lee being involved, it's got a lot of headlines. If she was not involved, we do not see half the headlines that we have seen in the last 5 days or a week, whatever it's been.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. We had a moment here that I hope everyone enjoyed and should have been a big enough moment to make everyone say this was the best Raw we've ever seen in our lives. Drew and Big E had a Mega Powers handshake. I loved that little moment, even as little and silly as it was. They agreed to work together later tonight, but Lashley comes out and is like, dude, Goldberg wants to kill me. Why do you like this dude, but you can't kill the Almighty? We also get a bit of Sasha saying she's going to win and Chucky watching Raw. A bunch of quick segments here, guys. Not really a lot of meat on the bone, but I thought they were entertaining enough. Raj, any thoughts on the Mega Power handshake or Lashley wondering why we're okay with Goldberg wanting to kill him?
I'm always a big fan of the Mega Power handshake, but it does. These guys aren't even close. You know what I mean? But the Lashley and Goldberg, I think Lashley always looks like $1 million out there. He looks like a superstar. All the death stuff in Goldberg's promos, it's a little dark. But at the same time, Lashley did put his hands on his son and put him in the full Nelson in the Hurt Locker or whatever he calls it right now. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense he'd be super pissed. It's a little dark for me, but overall I like this storyline.
How crazy that a handshake that was done 32 years ago, is that embedded in true wrestling fans' mind? I mean, it's no different than if some tag team partner threw somebody else through a pane of glass, we would know exactly what a homage that is. I don't know, but yeah, I mean they're far from the Mega Powers. The Goldberg, I mean, is Goldberg bringing his son to Saudi Arabia too? Is that what's happening?
I've got to think he is.
Yeah, I would think so.
Sorry, son. Make sure you get your homework for Thursday and Friday. I'm taking you to Jeddah.
I mean, imagine, what an incredible thing to tell.
I'm gonna kill a man.
Sorry,
you're gonna watch me commit murder overseas. So call in sick.
I would love to be a fly on the wall of a school board meeting for whatever school district Gage Goldberg is in.
But you know what you brought up with the Mega Powers handshake? It's bringing up something from, what is it? That was like 88, 87, 88. So what is that? Like 33 years ago?
32, 33?
Yeah. So that would be like in the 90s if they were bringing up references to stuff in the 60s. Like it just shows like how much that stuff has endured from.
Well, to be fair, there's a whole lot more documentation and archive of the stuff in the late 80s, with the network and everything.
Yeah.
To relive it. You weren't reliving the 1960s territories during the Attitude Era.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you said they're not on the same level as the Mega Powers, but that's not a shot against them.
No, that's not a shot against them.
That's like saying this basketball player is good, but he's not Michael Jordan.
Right.
Okay.
And by the way, I called the Chucky stuff. I started saying when Lily was on every week, I was like, and then they started saying Chucky coming this fall. I was like, this is an obvious layup of cross promotion.
I will say you called it a very long time ago, and you nailed it. And the fact that
what does that say about me? We're talking about shit Raw episodes, and here I am calling shots that early on. What does that say about me?
It says you should be working with Vince McMahon on Monday Night
Raw. What does that say about me? If that's the case, Jack.
So Chucky is now probably the only movie character, right, that's been on Raw and on Nitro?
Yes.
I think so. I was I saw you tweet that, and I was thinking, it feels like there's got to be someone else, but I guess RoboCop would be the only other movie character.
And he was just WCW.
Wait,
and I mean, there's been other movie characters like Shaft, when Samuel Jackson was Shaft on Raw before. They had the A-Team.
Yeah.
This would be the only time that I could think of that a character has been on Nitro and Raw.
The Rick Rude of movie characters. I guess as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy versus Austin Theory. Great start for Austin Theory. Has a match with Jeff Hardy, and the 24/7 crew came through, and I thought, oh, that means Austin Theory is not going to do very well. But he was able to withstand the 24/7 crew, gets a roll-up win, and I'm leaving this, and Raj, we'll start with you. I'm leaving this thinking this is the difference between a Karrion Kross debut and an Austin Theory debut. Austin Theory gets a win, seems like someone who's going somewhere, versus Karrion Kross, where we were all scratching our heads.
Absolutely. And for a minute there, it almost looked like they were going to have him lose.
Yeah.
So, this is how you do it. You introduce a new act, you have them get a win. I don't like that they did the 24/7 stuff during this. I think it took away from it a little bit. Anytime you have the 24/7 stuff during a match, you're basically telling the audience that this match isn't that important. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't like that part. I think the 24/7 stuff is just long overstayed. It's welcome. It's got to go. It's not even funny anymore. But that being said, I thought they did a good job with Austin Theory, and he looked like a star out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 24/7 title was one of those emergency reactionary decisions to appease USA when things really started taking the dip to the level that we've been living at now for the last 2 years for the Raw viewership. It needs to now be the emergency reactionary decision of let's stop this to salvage some segments because it's doing no favors. But yeah, I mean, I guess they are just determined they are going. I mean, Jeff Hardy is over like Rover. He could be world champion tomorrow. It doesn't feel like the hardcore loyal Raw audience would bat an eye at that. They'd be perfectly fine with it. He's so over, and they're determined to milk every bit of credibility out of him to rub it on to somebody else, which I guess is fine because that's just, I guess, if you're not going to have him sit in catering, if you're paying the guy and you're going to use him, that's what you do. Get other guys over. I mean, I'm convinced at this point, Jack, we could have you sign a WWE contract and they'd have you beat Jeff Hardy next week because they would just say, well, Jeff's not going to be here in a year from now, so get the farmer guy over. Right? I mean, that's just what we'd do.
As long as I don't wear my gladiator outfit.
Yeah. they'll make you. But to your point, Justin, absolutely. He could still be a main eventer. And Roman Reigns, Jeff Hardy's moving to SmackDown. Roman Reigns needs opponents. After this, after the draft, he's got just Drew McIntyre and Brock and no one else, realistically on that side. Maybe Sheamus. But
well, did you catch them? They didn't make a big point of it, but they basically gave their hand that Survivor Series is going to be champions versus champions.
Yeah.
But they said, whoever wins between Big E and Drew is going to go up against Roman. So it's like that's what they've reinvented Survivor Series. It's no longer trusting teams of 5. It's basically bragging rights, just redecorated.
Yeah, with no stakes. So
with no stakes.
Yeah, it's completely forgotten about the next day. They stopped referencing it. It's just become a pointless pay-per-view, and the ticket sales have been pretty slow for it. And I think I don't think fans see Survivor Series anymore in that top 4. I think Money in the Bank took its place a while ago.
I've been saying that for years. Money in the Bank was number 4.
The last time someone cared about Survivor Series was when you had Brock versus Goldberg. The last time people really cared about a Survivor Series match, I'd say, was that year where they had that stipulation where if Cena's team wins, the Authority has to disband, and Sting made his debut. But I feel like since then, no one's really cared about a Survivor Series match. Maybe that year that NXT was involved a little bit, but that's about it.
But real quick, not to sidebar us too much because we're on a pretty good pace, but think of Survivor Series. And mind you, I love Survivor Series. It's right around. It falls on my birthday right around. I love it. It's my first WWE pay-per-view I ever went to live. Survivor Series '95. So I have a soft spot for Survivor Series. But think about the history of that show, the 30+ year history. The majority of what defines Survivor Series legacy and like great moments has nothing to do with the premise of surviving teams.
Right.
The first one I went to was 90. I mean, think of it. You can go through. I was at the 95 one. Brett versus Diesel was the main event. That's the first time that WWE ever did a table spot. Brett going through the table. 97. Montreal Screwdriver.
Was that Survivor Series? I thought that was the December pay-per-view.
Nope, Survivor Series 95. Brett's
Where
on the
Brett
apron.
won?
Yeah, Brett won on the roll-up, the small package. But the table spot was he's on the apron, Diesel hits the ropes, Brett goes through. They never did a table spot before that, ever.
Really?
And never.
They kind of did.
Where?
Harley Race and Hulk Hogan were Harley on Saturday night's main event.
Okay.
And so,
all right.
So gotcha, Justin.
First time in the decade of the 90s.
Yeah, but like a modern table spot.
Yeah,
yes, you're right.
97, Montreal Screwjob. We go through the Survivor Series and think about all the things that we think about that had nothing to do with team. So I don't know. It's just funny that this.
Right. The Undertaker's debut. Rock's debut wasn't a team match, but you don't think about. You don't remember who the teams were. You just remember the Rock's debut.
Brett's return after his hiatus to go up against Austin.
Montreal.
And then but that Montreal. It just I don't know. Rock and Cena against the Miz and R-Truth. These are CM Punk. Or no, that's Money in the Bank. Never mind. That's Money in the Bank.
Yeah, that's Money in the Bank.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
I digress.
Because I'm with you, Justin. I used to think that I loved the team thing as a kid, and so. Because back as a kid, I wasn't even thinking about how it played into the bigger picture. It's like, oh, my favorite guys are in one match. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only way you got to see like Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man wrestling each other, even though it wasn't one-on-one outside of going to a live event. So,
but nowadays, I feel like it's the football equivalent of the draft, where you're like, okay, this is an exciting moment, but then it's going to be nothing for months until they come back with Royal Rumble. Much like with football, you have the draft, and then it's like nothing until preseason starts or something. That's how it feels to me. But
I think they should just swap Money in the Bank with Survivor Series. Get rid of Survivor Series at this point, because the 5-on-5 doesn't really do. And look, Survivor Series '89 was the first pay-per-view that I bought. And like me and a buddy of mine, we went wash cars to earn the money so we could give it to my parents to buy the pay-per-view. So I always have a fond.
$19.99 or $29.99?
It was $19.99 back then. Or it might have just jumped up. Yeah, I think it was still $19.99. But that was still like 5 cars we had to wash.
Right. And then you're like, that's so expensive. Come on.
Right. Well, now it is. With Peacock, it's $5 a month.
I will say, final sidebar, I didn't realize just how valuable having the network was until AEW started doing shows. And I'm like, geez, I got to pay how much for this show? Like, I want to see the show, but $60 or whatever. Yeah. So Bianca's backstage. She says she's going to be the best woman in their match tonight. And then we get to Jinder versus Kofi. And I was shocked that Jinder got about as clean of a win as you're going to expect from a guy who doesn't win very often, beating Kofi Kingston. And now it looks like the final 4 are Woods versus Mahal and Balor versus Zayn for the King of the Ring.
Well, first off, Raj, correct me here. So Zayn's in the final 4. Isn't in real life shoot talker? Isn't he like, I'm not going to Saudi?
He's not allowed in Saudi.
Yeah,
like they don't, because he's Syrian. Yeah, and their political conflict or whatever. So he was never allowed to go.
That's an interesting choice. Then, I mean, I know we're blurring, TV booking to real life. That's just an interesting choice to even put him this far into something that's culminating at this location.
Yeah, so you got to think it's going to be Finn and probably Jinder because they like to do the heel versus babyface.
Yeah.
So, and I got to think I can't see Finn walking around with the crown. I think it's kind of hurts him to have that with that look. So Jinder, the Maharaja means king. So
yeah, that makes sense. As you say that, it makes total sense to me because Balor would seem he's like a cool person, and the king is kind of a silly bit to have.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a babyface win since I think Edge way back in the day. I can't remember if Edge was a heel or a babyface when he won, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, so I like the idea of a King Jinder, though. That sounds cool.
It gives him something.
Yeah. Stellar Justin Lopez says, people forget they were going to scrap the pay-per-view in 2009, but fans got upset and they decided to keep it.
Yeah, that was Vince was saying back then. He thought the concept was outdated.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they were really looking at getting rid of it. There was a strong consideration.
Should listen to his gut.
Yeah.
Maybe that Vince guy's on to something. They should listen to him more.
Wait, was it? Wait, no, it was too early. What was the year that it was? What was the year that it was the Wade Barrett Nexus and they had Cena? Like, was that 2010?
That would have been 2010. Yeah.
Okay. What was 09?
09 would have been.
What was 09? Who was champion in 09?
I don't remember.
Probably Cena, Orton in that mix.
That's your safe bet right there.
Yeah, that's like saying who won the Super Bowl in 2009? Probably Tom Brady.
Probably the Patriots.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember offhand, but I like the style of match. I just don't think it needs to be a big thing. It can just be like every now and again they do a Edge was face in 01. Yeah.
So Edge was a face in 01. So we're going back 20 years to the last time a babyface won King of the Ring.
Yeah. Becky Lynch says she's going to be the best person in her match, and HBK versus Cena versus Triple H.
So people pointing out that the 09 was Cena versus Triple H versus HBK.
Wow, that's a stacked main event.
Wasn't that WrestleMania too? Oh, no. I'm thinking of...
That's a stacked main event in my hometown, and I completely forgot about it. That's amazing.
Yeah. But Becky Lynch is going to be the best. That's what she says backstage before we get to Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks teaming up against Becky and Flair. It's a brawl before the commercial break. They eventually get them together. They fight for a little bit before Bianca costs her team because she attacks her partner. My takeaway from this, and I guess Justin will start. I want to talk to you about this. Banks seemed to be just the feel-good story of WWE for like about a year, for the past year. But then SummerSlam came, and I feel like she's taken an L every single week since SummerSlam. Like, she can't catch a break.
Sasha?
I'm sorry, Bianca.
Belair. Bianca's momentum is certainly, Sasha's had these periods of time where she disappears, and there's all kinds of reckless speculation of why. But since SummerSlam, you're right. Bianca has not had the momentum has been halted. This whole thing, this whole tag match, this whole coexist. I joked about it on Twitter with you guys. Yeah. Why? What's the matter? Why does Becky and Charlotte need to coexist?
Right.
Why does Sasha and Bianca? Why? Why do they need to win this match? What the F is the purpose of them winning this match? It has no stakes. It has no meaning. It has no progression to any of the challengers' quest for the titles. Why? What does it matter? Why do we need to see them coexist in this situation? Because Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville played Russian roulette and decided that would be fun. It is such a to tie our Survivor Series talk of outdatedness. It's such a rest on our laurels of what is interesting to just put a whole bunch of names together. No, it doesn't work. Doesn't matter. This was some of the least interesting stuff on Raw tonight, and that's saying something.
Yeah, because it's star power packed. Like, all four of them are big names.
And I did not care. And I like all four of these women. I'm all for women's revolution. I'm all four of these women for the most part. And I couldn't wait for this to get off my TV because I was just so bored by it.
And yeah, I mean, to your point, Jack, these are like probably the 4 biggest women's stars today. You know, in this one match. I think the other one would be Britt Baker. But to Justin's point, it does, yeah. Well, why are they being forced to team together? They do this all the time. I mean, you know, the 2 people that are going to wrestle in the title match, they always force them to team. And yeah, I mean, we did that in the main event with Drew and Big E. Yeah, I couldn't care less, but I hate when they restart a match and then it ends in a no contest anyway. It's just it's just a waste of time. And then the main event, it ended in a DQ. It's just again a waste of time.
I guess the point I was trying to make with Bianca Belair too is not only is she's always left laying and beat up, but the camera's never even on her. It's always on Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Like she's an afterthought in the whole thing, which is crazy to me because she was like this huge star, like the next big thing, and now they're like, yeah, whatever. She's beat up in the corner. Let's look at the other 2 who we've already had on TV a million times. I mean, I like the other 2. I like everyone else, but I don't know. I just I don't like seeing Bianca Belair get beat up all the time and left without getting TV time. Well, she got TV time, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, which might mean that she's winning the title.
That's true too. That's very true. Speaking of winning titles, Doudrop versus Natalya. Doudrop gets a competitive yet quick win over Natalya, and now she's going to face Shayna Baszler. This is a match we kind of talked about a little bit, but just to quickly get to it, it looks like it's Carmella and Zelina Carmella and Zelina on one side, Doudrop, Shayna Baszler on the other side. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but any final thoughts on that part? This women's.
I'll just say this: if you watch the match with Natty and Doudrop. So obviously Doudrop wins via a roll-up on Natty. So nothing decisive, but it's just a clean babyface kind of, dumb luck, right place, right time. Watch this match back. Natty made Doudrop earn this roll-up victory. Natty was not going to just be the veteran who loses via banana peel and, la-di-da, here we go. Natty laid some shit in, and if you watch it, go back and watch, and she's being a professional. It's not, but if you watch what she's saying, talking in character, she made Doudrop earn that. If you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Doudrop, I say this every week. As long as she has that name, it's going to be hard to reach that next level. And she's talented, but with that name, that music, and the expression she's making, this gimmick is just DOA. It's killing her, and she's so good. She's so talented that she just needs to drop it. She needs to find a way to get out of it.
Who do you guys predict goes to the finals, Doudrop or Baszler? I'm Team Baszler all the way.
I think Baszler.
Shayna, yeah.
I think Shayna wins the whole thing.
Yeah. After that, we get a couple quick promos backstage. Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley see Morrison tapping into his chi wearing a Canadian tuxedo, while Austin Theory gets a selfie with Big E, which statistically means he's going to beat Big E in a match the following week. Just 2 other things, probably inconsequential. Also, Ali and Mansoor broke up. I think we all saw that coming.
That was a pretty brutal backstage. Backstage beatdowns like that don't happen that much in WWE anymore. That was actually pretty brutal. The way
he laid it in. So Deadpool party noting 2009 it was Team Miz versus Team Morrison at the Survivor Series. So more things change.
History books.
So the Miz was Aladdin, or no, the genie. The genie on
tonight.
Dancing with the Stars tonight.
Did he win? I don't watch Dancing. I don't know exactly how it works. Did he stay? Like they kick off one.
Jack, I do not believe that you don't watch Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that.
You look like you would be the trained dancer that gets paired with Nikki Bella.
I'm gonna dress like the genie and watch it later. But to the point about Ali and Mansoor, I was going to give Mansoor a lot of credit because he's been playing this role very well. I think it's hard to be it's one thing to be the guy like Ali, where you're the negative one and like this isn't going to work, but it's got to be hard to be the guy who's like, no, we can make this work. Knowing playing that character, it's got to be tough. I think he's doing a pretty good job of it, and I think he's done well with this, and it's been a good way to get him ingratiated in with the American fans since his undefeated streak in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like the tag team of Ali and Mansoor, and I like the kind of fun dynamic of like they come out. Mansoor loves to be playful to the crowd. Ali's telling him to stop it. Like, I don't know. I was fine with that. I don't know what it's going to take for them to WWE has done a very good job in the grand scheme of like, more women's wrestling and more, black champions and expanding the diversity. I don't know what it's going to take with the criticism that surrounds the situation with the Saudi shows. I don't know what it's going to take for them to get away from, they're just doing this because this is a Saudi show booking payoff. Because we're going to have us that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like the talent could be very talented, but it's hard to. They have more work to do to get away from that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah, because Ali and Mansoor would probably not be on another pay-per-view.
Right. And I'm sorry, Jack, real quick. Yeah, these Saudi shows are they get WrestleMania production value. They make more money than Manias do. So to translate what Raj is saying, this Ali Mansoor payoff for their little kerfuffle would not be semi-maining a WrestleMania in the States, but it's going to be a semi-main at the Saudi show, and we need to find a way to eliminate that gap.
I was going to say, I think it's a little unfair in this case, though, because this is a story that's been building up for months now. And if this was someone going to their hometown in the States, we'd say, yeah, they should be on the show. They should get a chance to do this. I feel like it's a little unfair in some ways.
But it's not just them. I mean, it's, Doudrop and Eva. They had their storyline going for months, and they broke them up, and they just had matches on TV. How often do we see that? The Hurt Business broke up, and they just had TV matches and not pay-per-view. They do that all the time. Miz and Morrison was supposed to be a TV match until Dancing with the Stars happened. So that's just what they do. Unless you're the top guys, it's hard to get those pay-per-view spots.
Yeah, it's true. It's fair. But we as fans, I guess is what I'm saying, we wouldn't give it a hard time if it was someone else going to their hometown. Like if it was going to New York and Zelina was going to have a big break-off match and they said, we're going to save it for the New York show, we would say, oh, that's great. As opposed to this situation, which I think is, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I think that sometimes we overthink it.
And Zelina, I mean, in those cases, when someone does go to their hometown, WWE will usually beat them.
Right.
Zelina spoke at a 9/11 memoriam event and then lost.
No, she wasn't even on the show.
It wasn't even on. Sorry, wasn't.
She was supposed to be on, and they cut her out.
8 hours later, she's cut. I mean,
yeah, that was a shame.
Yeah,
and I've had people in WWE kind of flippantly say this to me, in joking manner. So I don't know how much like knowledge is behind what they're saying to me. But I've had people in WWE, and Raj probably has too, had flippantly say to me, Vince and the powers to be like to just control the audience. They like to like almost playing like a little joke, like, oh, the hometown person, they're gonna lose tonight. Like, which, when you look at the flip side on the AEW, the way that they like, oh, we're coming to Pittsburgh, Britt and Wardlow, you are going to be a number. I mean, they make a point to like drive their ticket sales, to whoever the hometown star is,
and have them win.
And have them win.
I think it's been a thing for Vince. Really, where I noticed it started was Survivor Series '97. Ever since Brett in Montreal, Brett not wanting to lose in his hometown, ever since then, 90% of the time, you get humiliated in your hometown or beat. Unless you're a Steve Austin or Undertaker, you're getting beat in your hometown.
Yeah. But because even speaking of the flip side, by the way, even when you look at like Brian Pillman Jr., who lost in his hometown, or he didn't exactly get the win in his hometown, because MJF was saying all these mean things to him, and I think he beat him in Cincinnati. But
yeah, he got the win that following Friday on Rampage.
Well, Vince, we have Dean Ambrose. He's built from Cincinnati. What do you want to do? Well, damn, pal. Can't have an uprising from Cincinnati.
An uprising.
He'll lose.
Every Monday he's asking for the list of which wrestlers are from that hometown that day.
But to segue us, we get to the Usos who are in the main event tonight, and I don't recall this. And Jax, I'm sure Jax is probably floating around tonight in the chat, and Jax backed me up on Twitter. He corrected me. The Usos are in the main event tonight. They billed them in the ring announcement from San Francisco, where they're at tonight. I know San Fran has I know the wrestling Samoan population has a history in the Bay Area, so I know that. But I never recalled the Usos being vocally verbalized as from the Bay Area. I always just figure they're Samoan, and we know they live in Florida like everybody else does. And tonight they said they're from San Francisco, California. And I went, well, that's an interesting choice. They're supposed to be the heels going to this main event tonight. And we decide to, verbally remind everybody they're the hometown team. I don't know. That was weird to me.
It's funny you said that because I saw that on Twitter too. And I thought the same thing. I didn't realize they were from San Francisco. When they said it sounded weird. Maybe I just never noticed, but it was weird that I guess we both heard it this time too.
Same. I might have missed it. And if I missed it, I am just not a good WWE podcaster reporter.
No, I mean they're definitely from San Francisco. Rikishi, it's well known that he lived out there, and so where do they usually say they're from?
I don't know, but it sounded new.
I thought they just bill them from the Uso Penitentiary or.
Yeah,
right. I can never pinpoint a location. I mean. Again, if you follow anything, if you follow TMZ, they live in Florida.
Yeah.
I never associated San Francisco with the team.
Yeah. David Montalvo bringing up the Usos are from San Francisco. They went to Balboa High School. I live not too far from where they grew up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I don't doubt that they were from San Francisco. It's just I don't remember them ever saying it.
Yeah.
To Justin's point, I think
and it's weird that they would do it this week when they're the heels.
That's what I mean. Right. I was so baffled. I made a big note on my notes here, and I was like, "Am I missing? If I've been that out of tune, have I missed something?"
Do they usually even say anymore where wrestlers are from when they do their
announcements? Only if it benefits the character.
Yeah,
Drew McIntyre lives in Florida. They will always say Air Scotland to emphasize his Scottish roots.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to think of another one offhand. They'll all, half the wrestlers live in Florida. You have warm weather year round. They will go with the billing town that, or go back to Britt. Go back to home. Britt lives in Florida. Britt is always from Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. The billing of a character is the origin of the character. It's not necessarily where they are paying their taxes and laying their head at night. So that's why, again, when I heard San Francisco for the Usos, I'm like, I don't even think they ever bill them from that. I always thought it was just Uso Penitentiary, or just don't even, from the Isle of Samoa, or just don't even give a location at all.
Yeah. Yeah, like where do they bill Brock Lesnar from? I don't think they do like Saskatchewan, Canada. Like maybe still Minneapolis. Gosh, I can't even.
Yeah, he's never Canadian.
Right.
No. I remember when I saw him on the UFC thing when they had the Canadian flag next to him. I'm like, he's not Canadian. What's this rubbish here?
So any case, we have a match. We have a main event. And
geography aside, sorry.
No, it's interesting because you said that. And I was like, I didn't realize it either. But I think Raj, I think they did say Uso Penitentiary.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like.
But in any case, so the as we all would have expected, eventually the two good guys, they can't get along, and it costs them the match. And the Usos beat him up. Eventually, the good guys get control again, and Drew is kind of last one standing with a big knot on his forehead by the end of the show. And he's kind of last man standing, kind of gets the upper hand this week between the two. I think kind of to Justin's point at the beginning of the show, felt sort of like a middle of the road show, a few weeks out from a pay-per-view. But for the ending, I thought it did what it was supposed to do, built the tension. Any kind of thoughts on this one, Raj?
Again, I hate when you spend that much time and then it's a DQ or a count out at the end. And the two biggest matches on the show both had no finish, with this and then the women's match. So I just think it's a waste of time. And this story, they've just done the same angle so many times in the past that it's just not interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, what I said earlier, kind of a throwaway. We're in this purgatory. We got to get to Crown Jewel. We got to get the rosters to reset, and the draft takes effect. No Damian Priest tonight. No Karrion Kross experiment tonight. So again, just kind of a purgatory episode is what I'm going to label this as.
Yeah, Raj, to Raj's point too, especially if the Big E and Drew McIntyre, if they're not going to get a win anyways, like they're supposed to lose this match. I think a clean loss would have been okay, especially since they were messing with each other and kind of tagging themselves in and not helping each other out. I don't think a loss would have really hurt anyone, and losing to the tag team champions isn't like a big loss either. So it was a bummer to your point. It was a bummer to have it be sort of a non-finish.
Well, I don't think they should have beaten either of those guys right now. Drew, he's supposed to be feuding with Roman soon enough, so I feel like, and he's probably going to be losing to Big E, so he probably shouldn't take a loss. I think Big E just won the title. I don't think you should beat your world champion so soon after they win. I think they should have beat the Usos. It was a non-title match. They could have just got the win, but yeah, there was no Karrion Kross, to your point, on main event this week. It's T-Bar against Drew Gulak and John Morrison against Angel Garza. So, yeah. Yeah. No Damian Priest though, so maybe he had the week off, or who knows. But weird pace show, as I said at the beginning. I don't know if there's a lot of stuff that on its own I outright didn't like. It just, the whole show felt off to me though. This episode, I don't know, just the whole time felt very weirdly paced and put together. Any kind of final thoughts on it, you guys, before we put a bow on it? That's like the harshest criticism you've ever given.
The worst episode ever.
They are slowly dragging Jack down.
It happened. It happened to Glenn too. Glenn used to be the optimist.
This is the ultimate barometer. Jack is being grabbed by his luscious, volumed, nice hair, and they are pulling him down to Raj and I's level of what the hell.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those episodes. You missed it, you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, this is where the 3 hours really kicks you out. When you're like, wow, I spent 3 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. There was nothing... Well, there was just... Again, the two biggest matches didn't have finishes, so that kind of sucked. But
that's the real telling thing, right? You said if you didn't watch it, you missed anything. Like, that's the telling thing. And I'll here, a little transparency for people. Here's my notes. Not even... I'm not trying to be... this is not even a full page of like just opinions or things that come to me as I'm watching Raw. Mm-hmm. When I watch AEW, and granted, I have to do Jack's role with Alfred. I have to host, so I need to have a little bit more detail. I am 3, 4, 5 pages, but it's a lot of it is because there is so much to dive into of what is affecting things, what happened, whatever. Like, you could not watch Raw, and then you could tune out for 3, 4, 5 weeks, come back, and it's not a lot to catch up on. That is a terrible, terrible thing. Yeah. It's always funny to me on these nights when I'm on the analyst role, when Jack is leading the ship, and Jack, you do a great job at it. I appreciate it. And I just have to just jump in and just answer Jack's questions or argue with Raj. All I need to have is opinions. I don't need to have, anything more. I can't write that much about Raw. I just don't have that much. I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, what the hell? I don't have that much to say. It's like, that's bad. Raw. I mean, but there's no sign of it changing. If it's going to remain 3 hours, which as long as you're getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars, why would it change? I don't see where there's any light at the end of the tunnel here.
Yeah.
I think the only real takeaway from this episode that really would have will have a lasting impact is Mansoor and Ali broke up and Austin Theory got a win. Outside of that, Lashley's promo was fine, but I don't think it's kind of just, they're still going to have a match, and Bianca, Banks, and Flair and Lynch, not really, nothing really came of that. It was just kind of a big kerfuffle. If I'm using that word right, I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah, I think those were the only two things that really had anything that was like, oh, that might lead to something else. Is those two things.
Yeah. Jack Scallon's pointing out, LaBar, you are correct. I went back through many Uso entrances over the years, and they don't say San Francisco, just the weight and Usos.
Yeah. Thank you, Jax. Yeah, Jax, he's working overtime as our researcher for this.
Yes. So that, I think that does it for us. We've stayed our hour. Thank you guys, everyone in the chat, for watching along. Thank you for everyone who's listening. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the NXT after show. Make sure to, there's not going to be one on Wednesday for Dynamite,
right?
Because there is no Dynamite. There is also going to be one for SmackDown and Rampage, and I'm sure that one's going to be fiery this week. So definitely tune in to that one. But as always, keep your eye on Wrestling Inc. You can follow them at Wrestling Inc. on Twitter for all of the news. That's the best place to go for all your wrestling news, and it's just constant these days. But that does it for me. I'm Jack Farmer. He's Justin LaBar. He's Raj Giri. Tune in tomorrow for NXT's after show right here on Wrestling Inc.